All right, let's get right into this one. I want you to picture this. It's 2011, and JCPenney, a classic American department store, is about to try something wild. A massive experiment that was so logical, so clean, it was supposed to change retail as we know it. Instead, it almost burned the whole company to the ground.
So what did they do? Well, they got rid of everything. And I mean everything. No more coupons showing up in your mailbox. No more giant red signs screaming sale. No more trying to figure out if it's 50% off the already reduced price. The idea was just to have one simple, fair price. Every day.
And the result? It wasn't a slow, gentle decline. Nope. It was a free fall. Customers didn't just get confused. They just stopped showing up. The revenue absolutely cratered. The stock price tanked. This whole plan that was built on being fair and simple was turning into an absolute catastrophe.
And that, right there, is the billion-dollar question we're going to unpack. How on earth did a move that was supposed to be good for customers end up being so spectacularly bad for business? The answer? Well, it's a really fascinating dive into psychology, customer habits, and the secret power of a good deal.
Okay, so before we can understand the failure, we really have to understand the vision behind it. And this whole vision, it came from a very, very famous guy in the retail world. That's right, we're talking about Ron Johnson. This guy was a total rock star. He was the genius who created the Apple Store experience, that clean, minimalist, customer-first vibe that was incredibly successful. So the thinking was, hey, if anyone can bring that same magic to JCPenney, it's gotta be him.
And this was his big, game-changing idea, fair and square pricing. You gotta admit, the logic on paper is perfect, right? Get rid of all the games, all the gimmicks, just give people a trustworthy, low price from day one. No more waiting for a sale, no more digging for coupons, just honest, simple value. And this quote, this really gets to the core of how he was thinking. Johnson was convinced that this endless cycle of marking prices up just to mark them down was basically a trick. It was exhausting for customers. He truly believed that what people wanted more than anything was clarity, simplicity, just like they got when they walked into an Apple store.
But here's the twist. While the logic was totally sound, it completely ignored a huge and kinda irrational part of how our brains work, the simple, amazing thrill of finding a deal.
And this right here, this is the massive disconnect. You see, Johnson saw all those coupons and sales as a problem that needed to be fixed. But for JCPenney customers, they weren't a problem at all. They were the entire point. They loved that feeling of winning, of feeling smart for getting a special price that maybe someone else didn't. I mean, think about it for a second. This wasn't some new thing. For generations, the company had literally trained its shoppers to behave this way. Shopping at JCPenney wasn't just about buying a sweater, it was a game. It was a hunt for the best possible bargain. They had conditioned their own customers to be discount hunters. And that's the absolute core of the mistake. When they took away the discounts, it didn't make shoppers feel like they were being treated more fairly. It made them feel like they were losing out. The fun of it all was just gone. That little dopamine hit you get from feeling like a savvy shopper who snagged a bargain, poof, it vanished. And not feeling had a very real, very direct impact on the bottom line. Even if the new everyday price was objectively the same as the old sale price, it just didn't feel like a deal. And in this battle, perception completely crushed reality. Loyal customers just walked away. So you might be thinking, wait a minute, why did this simple pricing work so brilliantly for Apple, but fail so epically for JCPenney? Well, it all comes down to a complete and total mismatch between a strategy and the customer. You see, when someone walks into an Apple store, they're usually motivated by the brand, by the latest tech, the design. They fully expect a premium, non-negotiable price. The whole experience is about the product. But the JCPenney shopper, they were motivated by value, by savings. They expected sales, and the shopping experience was all about the thrill of that deal. Johnson basically tried to give an Apple experience to a customer who wanted a treasure hunt. And on top of all that, the execution was just rough. It wasn't a gradual change, it was like flipping a switch overnight. The stores were changing, the marketing was different, the pricing was completely upside down, and there was almost zero effort to explain to their loyal customers why it was all happening. It just felt sudden, confusing, and pretty alienating. So, after the dust finally settled and the whole strategy was thrown out, what are the big lessons we can pull from this legendary retail disaster? There are really 4 huge ones here. First,
Price is about feelings, it's not just about math. Second, you can't just snap your fingers and erase decades of habits your customers have learned. Third, massive changes like this, they need to be tested and rolled out slowly. And finally, and this might be the biggest one, context is king. A brilliant idea for one company can be a complete train wreck for another.
But look, if you only take one single thing away from this entire story, let it be this. It didn't matter if the prices were actually fair. What mattered was whether the customers felt like they were getting a good deal. And in the fight between perception and reality, perception won. Hands down. Which kind of leaves us with a final question to chew on for really any business out there. It's so critical to ask, what are people really buying from you? Is it the product itself, or is it the thrill of the deal? Because as JCPenney learned in the most painful way possible, sometimes that thrill is the most valuable thing you're selling.